2 Samuel chapter 15. Absalom's rebellion. After this, Absalom got himself a chariot and horses, as well as 50 men to run before him. Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the gateway. Whenever a man with a grievance came before the king's tribunal, Absalom would call him and say, "From which city are you?" Should he say, "Your servant is from such and such a tribe in Israel," Absalom would tell him, "Your cause is good and just, but there is no one to hear you on behalf of the king." Absalom would add, "I wish I were judge in the land. Then every man with a grievance or cause would come to me, and I would give him justice." Whenever a man approached to pay him homage, he would stretch out his arm to hold and embrace him. Absalom did this to all Israelites who came to the tribunal of the king, winning their hearts for himself. After 4 years, Absalom said to the king, "Please allow me to go and fulfill a vow I have made to the Lord in Hebron. For while I lived in Geshur in Aram, I made this vow. If the Lord will really bring me back to Jerusalem, I will go there to worship him." The king said to him, "Go in peace," and he left for Hebron. Absalom sent spies throughout the tribes of Israel with this instruction: "As soon as you hear the trumpet sound, proclaim, Absalom is king in Hebron." 200 men from Jerusalem left with Absalom as invited guests, but nothing of his purpose was known to them. While Absalom was offering the sacrifices, he sent for Ahithophel the Gilonite, David's counselor, from his city Gilo. Thus the conspiracy grew strong, and the number of people with Absalom kept increasing. David flees from Jerusalem. A messenger came to report to David that the Israelites were siding with Absalom. Then David said to all his servants who were with him in Jerusalem, "Let us flee, for we cannot resist Absalom. Go quickly, lest he come hurriedly and overtake us. Surely he can bring disaster upon us and put the city to the sword." The king's servant answered him, "Your servants are with you in whatever my lord the king decides." The king departed with all his household, but left 10 concubines behind to take care of the house. The king left on foot, and the people followed him. They halted at the last house of the city. All his servants marched past him, all the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and all the 600 Gittites who had followed him from Gath marched ahead of him. Then the king said to Ittai the Gittite, "Why are you also coming with us? Go back and stay with your king, for you are a foreigner and exile from your home. Are you setting out when you have just arrived? Shall I make you wander about with us? Go back, take your brothers with you, and may the Lord show you kindness and faithfulness." Ittai, however, answered the king, "As the Lord lives, and as my lord the king lives, wherever my lord the king shall be, whether in life or in death, there also will your servant be." Then David said to Ittai, "Go then, march on." So Ittai the Gittite marched on with all his men and all the children who were with him. Meanwhile, all those in the countryside wept aloud as all the people passed by. Then the king crossed the Wadi Kidron, and all the people moved on to the desert. The priest Zadok came with all the Levites carrying the ark of the covenant of God. They set down the ark of God beside Abiathar, who stood until all the people had gone out of the city. Then the king said to Zadok, "Carry the ark of God back into the city. If the Lord looks kindly on me, he will bring me back and allow me to see again the ark and its lodging place. But if he says, 'I am not pleased with you, I am here,' let him do to me what seems good to him." The king also said to the priest Zadok, "See, you and Abiathar go back to the city in peace, and take with you your son Ahimaaz and Jonathan son of Abiathar. I will wait in the desert forts until you send word for me." So Zadok and Abiathar carried the ark of God back to Jerusalem and remained there. David himself went up to the Mount of Olives weeping. He was barefooted and had his head covered, and all the people who were with him had their heads covered and wept as they went. When David was informed that Ahithophel was among the conspirators with Absalom, he said, O Lord, turn the counsel of Ahithophel into folly. When David reached the summit where God is worshipped, Hushai the Archite met him with his coat torn and dust strewn on his head. David said to him, If you come with me, you will be a burden to me. It would be better for you to return to the city and say to Absalom, I will be your servant, O king, just as I have been your father's servant in the past. I will now be your servant. In that way you will be useful to me in thwarting the counsel of Ahithophel. The priest Zadok and Abiathar are there to help you. Report whatever you hear from the king's house. Both their sons are there, Ahimaaz, Zadok's son, and Jonathan, Abiathar's son, and you shall report to me through them everything you hear. So David's friend Hushai arrived in the city just as Absalom was entering Jerusalem. 2 Samuel chapter 16. When David had gone a little beyond the summit, Ziba, the steward of Meribah, met him with saddle asses laden with 200 loaves of bread, 100 bunches of raisins, 100 summer fruits, and a skin of wine. The king then asked Ziba, Why have you brought these? Ziba answered, The asses are for the king's household to ride on. The bread and summer fruits are for your servants to eat, while the wine is drink for those who faint in the desert. Then the king asked him, Where is your master's son? Ziba replied, He is staying in Jerusalem, for he said, Today the Israelites will give me back my father's kingdom. To this the king said, Everything that belongs to Meribah is now yours. And Ziba said, I pay homage to my lord the king. May I always find favor with you. Shimei curses David. When King David came to Bahurim, a man from the clan of Saul's family, named Shimei, son of Gera, came out cursing him. He threw stones at David and his officers, although the king's men and warriors flanked the king on his right and on his left. Shimei said as he cursed, go away, you bloodthirsty rogue. The Lord has brought down on your head all the blood of the family of Saul. You became king in his place, but God has now placed the kingdom in the hands of your son Absalom. Ruin has come upon you because you are a bloodthirsty man. Then Abishai, son of Zeruiah, said to the king, Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over and cut off his head. But the king said, Why should I listen to you, sons of Zeruiah? If the Lord has ordered him curse David, who can ask him, Why do you act like this? Then David said to Abishai and his officers, If my own son wants to kill me, how much more this Benjaminite? Leave me alone and let him curse me if the Lord has ordered him to do so. Perhaps the Lord will look on my affliction and turn to good the curses heaped on me today. So David and his men went their way while Shimei, following on the hillside opposite him, continued to curse as he threw stones and flung dust at him. The king and all the people with him arrived exhausted at the Jordan, and there he refreshed himself. Absalom in Jerusalem. Now Absalom, accompanied by Ahithophel, entered Jerusalem with all the Israelites. When Hushai the Archite, David's friend, appeared before Absalom and exclaimed, Long live the king! Absalom said to Hushai, Is this your loyalty to your friend? Why did you not go with your friend? Hushai said to Absalom, No, I will be with the one the Lord and his people and the Israelites have chosen, and with him I will remain. Whom should I serve now, for if not his son? As I have served your father, so will I serve you. Then Absalom said to Ahithophel, Give us your advice on what we shall do. Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Go and be with the concubines your father has left to keep his house. When the Israelites hear that you have made yourself odious to your father, all those of your party will be strengthened." So they pitched a tent for Absalom on the terrace, and Absalom went into his father's concubines in the sight of the Israelites. In those days, Ahithophel's counsel was deemed as sound as the oracle of God. It was deemed so by both David and Absalom. Psalm 128. The happy home of the just man. Blessed are you who fear the Lord and walk in his ways. You will eat the fruit of your toil. Blessed will be you and favored. Blessed be your wife, the fruitful vine of your house. Blessed be your children, the olive shoots around your table. Such are the blessings bestowed upon the man who fears the Lord. May the Lord bless you from Zion. May you see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life. May you live long and see your children's children. Peace be upon Israel. John chapter 4, verse 1 to 30. Jesus and the Samaritan woman. The Pharisees heard that Jesus was attracting and baptizing more disciples than John, although Jesus himself did not baptize but only his disciples. When Jesus became aware of what was being said, he left Judea and returned to Galilee. He had to pass through Samaria, and he came to a Samaritan town called Sychar, near the land that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. Tired from his journey, Jesus sat down by the well. It was about noon. Now a Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." His disciples had just gone into the town to buy some food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask me, a woman of Samaria, for a drink?" For Jews, in fact, have no dealings with Samaritans. Jesus replied, if you only knew the gift of God, and if you knew who is it that is asking you for a drink, you yourself would have asked, and he would have given you living water. The woman answered, "Sir, you have no bucket, and this well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us this well and drank from it himself, together with his children and his cattle?" Jesus said to her, "Whoever drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks of the water that I shall give will never be thirsty, for the water that I give will become in him a spring of water welling out to eternal life." The woman said to her, "Sir, give me this water, that I may never be thirsty and never have to come here to draw water." Jesus said, "Go call your husband and come back." The woman answered, "I have no husband." And Jesus replied, "You are right in saying, 'I have no husband,' for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you have now is not your husband. What you said is true." The woman then said to him, "Sir, I see you are a prophet. Our ancestors used to worship God on this mountain. But you Jews, do you not claim that Jerusalem is the only place to worship God?" Jesus said to her, "Believe me, woman, the hour is coming when you shall worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not understand. We worship what we understand, for salvation comes from the Jews. But the hour is coming, and indeed is already here, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for that is the kind of worship the Father wants. God is spirit, and those who worship God must worship in spirit and truth." The woman said to him, "I know that the Messiah, who is called the Christ, is coming. When he comes, he will tell us everything." And Jesus said, "I who speak to you am he." At this point the disciples returned and were surprised that Jesus was speaking with a woman. However, no one said, "What do you want?" or "Why are you talking with her?" So the woman left a water jar and ran to the town. There she said to the people, "Come and see a man who has told me everything I ever did. Could he not be the Christ?" So they left the town and went to meet him.